pilot section of the book is called The Stealth Dossier, and we were trying to figure out today if we came up with that title before we wrote the poems or after, and we don't know. It was a year of writing, and it all kind of came together organically and unconsciously. But it is called The Stealth Dossier, and we did write these line by line as collaborators, which was something we hadn't tried before, and it was quite challenging and really fun. We're going to read them tonight in couplets, because I think going back and forth one line each would be really hard on the listener, actually, and maybe the reader too. So, The Stealth Dossier. We're just going to read a few of these. 1. If he could remove the impression of light from his mind, the crime would rewind, disjunct, unformed, restitute,
and moribund. To the night at the Larchmont Hotel, phantom dress, trophy in a hood, 3 choices.
In the same agenda. Ava Gardner in her black raincoat and night vision goggles, Bergman and Binoche.
In cutoffs and Chesapeake pearls, the way light aged him, he fell apart with perfect grace into their arms.
Number 3. The non-blaze of the Pleiades non-dizzies us as we break with fury and rubber across a ballast of sutured lungs.
Droop and glory. We're so frangible, we can't begin to hold a civilization together without getting distracted.
By barns and noble barnstormers concealing breasts. Yet we continue to believe that each meal, each home, each life
is a bargain we made before we were tadpoles. Orion, crack open the sky and walk through, all dog and boy.
Number 4. Do you pity a 60s yard of perfectly fertilized grass, or is every army on your street a delicate example
of sweetness, pounded by 10-year-olds with M1917s and mouths of milk? I've never been fonder of biology.
Of the early courtship of boys sweeping down sidewalks in their surround sound orbits and their incubating myths.
When Kunci told us his brother was lost in the jungle, we believed him, and then we buried them both alive.
7. A fruit crate and boy lips, all the occasions of longing and phalanges. Righteous
precision across 1,000 rows, and here we are above freezing, brinking.
Stumbling through ice, sick, forced, crumpled, the only Terpsichorean Americans.
On teacup shoes filled with frenzy and scotch, a little like souvenirs, only taller.
11. It's fatal this time, filter and pursuit, sword and pummel. He swoons as if on stage, all drama and refuse.
More stilted than trash, more humming than blown, he portals through.
Pointing to the ceiling fan, an obvious provocation made of hands and wind and sweat glands.
Causing devastation in a time of senseless scandal, fire swallowing when the world is gulping air.
And number 13. What happened to my legs? They seem so rabid, furious, relentless. I can't stop them.
In this fabulous story of glass and repentance, an imperial breast, a shredded exit, chaired, scolded,
and rebooted. What happened to this tongue? What happened to our litany of implied revenge?
A hand on your back for yesterday's murder, a sword for luck in the palm of your hand.
There's an epilogue at the end, duh. And it's actually my favorite part of the book, I think. So we're not going to read that tonight.
So Maureen and I talked about reading solo work and reading from the book, and we decided we really wanted to make this reading about collaboration and really honor the book and our collaboration. But we each picked out one poem in the spirit of collaboration. One of the writing exercises I've been doing over the past couple of years is when I go to readings, I write, and I always feel like I'm in some kind of improvisation, some kind of duet, even though it's in my own mind, with the poets that I'm listening to. And I let that seep in, and I just take it wherever it goes. But I did, one of the first pieces I wrote was not at a poetry reading in this. I wrote it when I was at a performance of Movement Salon. Many Movement Salon people are here tonight. It's an incredible, wonderful improvisational dance, language, movement group, and I loved going to their performances. So in collaboration, and in the spirit of collaboration, I'm going to read this poem. It's called Listening to Movement Salon, and it was from January 17th, 2010. Let me wash up the mirror with Ajax or Simonize, TC and his little birds. Like him to be playing alone in the sand. Even better, the penguins or the whales, swimming very small like a deck of cards, translucent through and through. But the red body, bowl or syrup, make yourself falsely small, falsely female, that Yiddish violin just gruesome. Stock on the slate, crunched in the back, that's how we play alone. Open, slack mouth, the oh-so, ho-po, let me draw you. So he checks himself for greed. I hate windows, he says. So he checks, and overarched, he checks again. Tail end of check.
My poem, In the Spirit of Collaboration, was written in Albuquerque a couple of years ago when I was on leave. And the reason I'm saying it was in the spirit of collaboration is because I was asked to write a poem for the Church of Beethoven. I don't know if anyone knows about it. If you get to Albuquerque on a Sunday morning, Church of Beethoven is like this amazing, wonderful thing where they get musicians from the university and other places in Albuquerque, and they usually have a featured poet. And I knew what music they were going to be playing, and I wanted to write a poem for that day and for that composer. So, and as you'll see, I had some mixed feelings about the composer, but what I did was I got the music that was going to be played on a CD, and I sat at the Flying Star Cafe on Rio Grande and listened, and probably about 2 hours just listening and writing, and it was, well, I won't tell you anymore. Anyway, so that's my spirit of collaboration. It's called Shostakovich at the Flying Star Cafe, and it's after String Quartet Number 1 in C major, Opus 49. For those of you who know that, you'll see what I mean. There's a quote from Joseph Brodsky: "Everything has its limit, including sorrow." My mother was smitten with your pathos and your rapid pulse. She whispered your name like an Olympian's, loved you through Stalin, McCarthy, Kennedy, and Khrushchev, between her own daily operas of Guiding Light and Search for Tomorrow. I was conceived in Jersey, the first of my mother's hopefuls, pizzicato in the second movement, irony in the third, capitulation in the fourth. We were her sheltered American brood, her 4 melancholy variations. You were her maestro. At 14, I rebelled and consented to Stravinsky, Prokofiev, Gershwin, any Russian but hers. Then I left the motherland altogether for Satie and Debussy, Joni and Dylan. You said of your first quartet that you visualized childhood scenes, bright moods associated with spring. Now it's raining on the Flying Star patio, the rain I've come to delight in since defecting to the desert. I'm in earphones under a wide umbrella, absorbed in the climax of viola and cello, violins driving the major chord home. I can't hear you and not think of her, a woman who lived and died in the key of C-sharp minor, remote and almost glowing, a ruby deep in the matrix of her time. Listen to your transgressive strings, the way they hold my heart and pound it. There was a day long ago when you and I entered a soundproof booth and blocked out the entire world. Now there's a hush everywhere but inside me. The rain sounds sacred as it hits the implacable earth.